a spontaneous type of person, passionate, vibrant? Or are you steady, grounded, orderly, reliable? These are the two different characteristics which the Kabbalists call tohu and tikkun. Tohu literally means chaos, and tikkun literally means fixed or orderly. But chaos can sometimes be a good thing because it's an extra dose of passion, tremendous commitment, impressive devotion beyond the letter of the law, all comes from a kind of chaotic inner turbulence. And this is really relating to the story at the beginning of our Torah portion, Vayishlach. We read that after many, many years apart, Jacob has been away from his brother Esau for many years, and he has found an entire family. And it's been a difficult rift. Esau wanted to kill him for stealing his blessing. Jacob now decides it's time to reach out to Esau, and he sends messengers, and there's an awaiting encounter with his brother. What's actually going on here? So Esau represents tohu, chaos. The more vibrant, the more violent, the more in its unhealthy form, the more passionate type of personality. Jacob represents the more grounded one. He was described as a ish tam, yeshiv eilis, a simple guy who liked to sit and study. And therefore, what's actually happening now is after a period of groundedness, he's established his family. He feels very grounded now, Jacob. He decides that it's also good to have a little bit of chaos too. If you're too grounded, if you're always on time, if you're predictably boring, then you won't necessarily achieve that much in your life, because you need a bit of spice. You need a bit of passion. You need a bit of tohu. Just a bit, not too much. And it needs to be after you've achieved tikkun. If you base your life on tohu, you just go to bed whenever you want, you get up whenever you want, you do whatever you want, you say whatever you want, it's not going to be a healthy life. You need to have tikkun. You need to have order in your life. You need to have sensible structure. But too much order is not a good thing. And that is why when Jacob had achieved his orderliness, he said, okay, I'm going to reach out to Esau now. I need a little dose of Esau's passion in order to perfect my life and make it a little bit more spicy than the order that I'm used to. Chapter 33, verse 25. We read this peculiar story of how Jacob is attacked by a man who wrestled with him all night, who our sages informed us was actually an angel, a demonic angel, the archangel of Esau. What is going on here? So, the difference between the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is that Abraham and Isaac both had errant sons. Abraham had Ishmael, and Isaac had Esau. But Jacob, all his children were righteous. He had what's called a perfect complement of children. And that really angered the demonic forces. The demonic forces, the Sitra Achra as it's called, they just love it when there's dysfunction. They just love it when you have errant children. When all your children are good, it's trouble. There's real trouble. So that is why these forces launched an attack on Jacob in particular. They didn't attack the other patriarchs because they saw him as the potential danger to their own existence. He was just too good, too perfect. And they almost won. They wrestled with him all night. They didn't manage to overpower him, and they just got him in the leg. They just got him in some external part, but they didn't succeed in overcoming him. Now, how did this angel appear? The Talmud brings two opinions. One, that the angel manifested itself as an idol worshipper, a kind of pagan figure. And another opinion is that the angel manifested itself as a Torah scholar, a rabbi with a long beard. Rabbi Avraham Bernstein of Sokotchov, 19th century Hasidic Rebbe, said that there's a powerful lesson here. That the forces of evil in us, which is the impulse to evil, which is called the Yetzer Hara, can appear in two different ways. It can appear as the idol worshipper, just go and enjoy your passions, go and sin, go be the devil, go spoil yourself. That's one of our darker demons. But the other type of demon which visits us is a saintly rabbi with a beard And he tries to convince you with pious arguments and shows you how that, what is really a sin. He's making out that it's a big mitzvah and you're defending your honor and you're doing something really important, and he makes you all self-righteous. That's how this Yetzer Hara can appear, either as an idol worshipper or a great rabbi. Nice insight from the Socket Chava. Now, I mentioned before that in this fight with the angel, the garden, the demon, which Jacob was fighting with, Jacob definitely won. It was a resounding victory, although he just got nabbed in the leg. And the Torah actually says that there's a mitzvah to commemorate this event. Al kain lo yeichlu b'nei Yisrael es gid hanashe. Therefore, the Jewish people should not eat the gid hanashe, which is the sciatic nerve of an animal. In Hebrew grammar, there's like a particle which we don't really have in English. The Bnei Yisrael should not eat es gid hanashe. They shouldn't eat the sciatic nerve. The word es, aleph taf, is an allusion, says the Rebbe of Chernobyl, the Ma'ari Naim, Rebbe Menachem of Chernobyl. He says this is an allusion to the darkest day on the Jewish calendar, to Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. Tisha, Tov, B'Av, Av begins with an Aleph, is the word Es. It's hinted to here, because this fight is really the primordial fight between the forces of good and the forces of evil. And unfortunately, to this day, the date on the Jewish calendar where we still see the forces of evil being triumphant is on Tisha B'Av, and it's alluded to here in our verse. Chapter 34, verse 8, we read how my son Shechem's soul yearns for your daughter. Shechem had abducted Dinah, now he wants to marry her. Why did he want Dinah so much? What is the inner reason, the soul reason, the Kabbalistic reason? So Rabbi Isaac Luria, 16th century Kabbalist, explains. Listen to this. That Shechem was actually a spark of Adam's soul. And Jacob was a reincarnation of Adam. And therefore that is why Shechem had this impulse, this yearning to be reunited with the family of Jacob, because it's really from the same soul root. Chapter 36, verse 12. We read about Timnah. Timnah was a concubine, and she married Eliphaz, who was Esau's son. That's all we read about in the Torah. But in the Talmud, Tractate Sanhedrin, Babylonian Talmud, page 99b, there's more about Timnah. Who was she? Timnah was actually a princess. She came from this royal household, and she wanted to convert to Judaism, and she wanted to marry Jacob, and Jacob rejected her. So instead she married one of Esau's sons. Well, she wanted to marry into Jacob's family, but she was rejected by Jacob. Now, was this the right thing of Jacob to do or not? So the Talmud says no. This was a terrible mistake. She was a righteous woman, she wanted to convert, why not accept her? And actually you see there's a tragic result. One of Timnah's children, we read later on, was Amalek, the nemesis of Israel, this arch enemy which comes back to haunt us in so many generations. He would never have been born if Jacob would have accepted Timnah. So says the Talmud, Jacob made a grave mistake. But, as so often in Judaism, we have a difference of opinion. Rabbi Isaac Luria, 16th century Kabbalist, says that Jacob did the right thing. This was an act of piety. He shouldn't have accepted this foreign blood into the patriarchal tree of the Jewish family. He did the right thing. And, says Rabbi Isaac Luria, in that merit, Jacob was buried in the Holy Land. Due to this special rejection of Timnah. He achieved a piety, a purity, which enabled him to be buried in the Holy Land. Now, the teachings of Rabbi Isaac Luria written down by Chaim Vital, his disciple. Chaim Vital's son was Shmuel Vital, his son and disciple, who was also responsible for recording a lot of teachings. When he recorded this teaching of Rabbi Isaac Luria, he said, this contradicts the Talmud. Was it an act of piety or not? And he explains the following. He says, yes, the Talmud's right. Jacob should have married Timnah. He would have lost the merit of being buried in the land of Israel, like Rabbi Isaac Luria says. So he should have lost the merit. Let him lose it. You don't have to be buried in the land of Israel. We have to integrate into the world. We have to make Judaism a dominant force in the world. If we're too insular, if we would just reject everyone, that's going to be no good. That's what Rabbi Shmuel Vital says. Even if Timnah would have tarnished us a tiny little bit, it would have been worthwhile. Spiritual lesson for the week. Vayetze, last week's Torah portion was about going out into the world, about avoiding insularity. Vayishlach is the consummation of that process. Esau is finally healed. The dysfunctional elements of the world are healed. So let that be the message for this week. Focus on what parts of your life, in your family life, in your professional life, what needs healing, what is dysfunctional, have you healed it? Have you gone out enough into those activities, focused on them enough, given them your attention and magical touch to ensure that they achieve their destiny in this world, which is tikkun, the healing of yourself, your life, and all mankind. Please join me again next week for Torah in 10.